Joining us now is the editor-in-chief for the Babylon Bee, Kyle Mann. Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I've followed your publication for about 2 years now. I mean, you guys are constantly on top of current events with a fun spin on it. I mean, it's a lighthearted moment that we see in today's chaotic news cycle. So can you tell our viewers a little bit from your perspective what it is that the Babylon Bee does?
Yeah, we write satire about current events, politics, church life, Christian culture. You know, we're a Christian site, so we do a lot of jokes about church culture and church life. And we dig deeply into current events, and so that's where we sometimes get into some trouble with with people who think we're trying to deceive people or something like that.
And, you know, I want to get a little bit, before we get into the whole feud with Snopes and that CNN reporter, I want to talk a little bit about your writing and editorial process, because you guys do have very entertaining content, and you put out a lot of it, and it's very timely, too. I mean, every single day. I mean, a lot of our viewers may have heard of The Onion before, but you're essentially doing the same thing, but you're a little bit newer of an organization, too, with a little bit different of a slant when it comes to satire. What goes into the writing process for you and your employees?
Yeah, we have, you know, it's a big collaborative process. We have a lot of really talented writers that send in articles. Sometimes it's a big collaboration where one guy might pitch an idea and someone else will punch it up a little bit, and then someone else will write the copy. And we have talented Photoshop guys who will do a great, you know, Photoshop to make it look believable or way over the top and hilarious, depending on what we're trying to do. So it's a big collaboration usually.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned before too that you're a Christian site, which may be kind of adding maybe to the scrutiny. At least that's what people on social media are saying. I've also seen some people from your organization say that you are unfairly scrutinized a lot of times, depending on these articles. I mean, you say that it is satire, so there is a little bit of truth that comes with it, but some of the articles are clearly jokes. I mean, for example, the CNN buying a giant washing machine in order to spin their news cycle. That is within itself just a funny concept. Nobody can actually believe that CNN is buying a washing machine to do that. So why is it, do you think, that you guys are being scrutinized so much more than maybe someone else like The Onion or other websites that do kind of post satire or other jokes?
Yeah, well, the fact checkers will fact check various websites. They'll fact check The Onion. They'll fact check other groups, you know. But it does seem that when they fact check us, it turns into they'll claim that we're trying to deceive people. You know, and that's the main difference, is that for some reason they don't understand it when they're the target of a joke. All of a sudden they lose their sense of humor.
Yeah.
And so that's when we start to complain a little bit about that.
And, you know, it would all be fun and games, kind of, if it was just kind of fooling people on the internet, or if people were kind of getting upset about it and there was no real threat of consequences or anything like that. But I've heard you say in other interviews as well that there have been threats of maybe deplatforming, or maybe just at least a little bit censorship to some degree. Can you speak about what those threats would mean to your company and why you think that they're coming up?
Yeah, well, that article you mentioned with the CNN purchasing a giant washing machine to spin the news, it was shocking to us because that was the first one that got us threatened with demonetization and deplatforming from Facebook. You know, so we published this article, and the next day we got a notice from Facebook saying that our page would have lowered reach. You know, a lot of people wouldn't see our posts that maybe would have in the past, because we're trying to trick people with this article as though CNN's really trying to spin the news in a washing machine. And, you know, and that's what's absolutely bizarre to us. You know, I can understand some satire. It approaches reality, you know, and and we can understand that sometimes it's in that gray area where some people might not get the joke. But something like that, I still don't believe anybody on the planet actually thought that CNN purchased a washing machine. So that's really concerning for us when it feels like we're being singled out.
And it would be one thing, too, if maybe this was a story that maybe had some real-life consequences, like maybe if people were misinterpreting it and it was putting someone in danger or something of that sort.
Sure.
But that isn't one of these cases at all. I mean, this is one of those cases where, I mean, you were scrutinized by a CNN reporter for posting a flag at half-mast, you know what I mean, or that article, or the perfect example is the CNN washing machine. I mean, no real person really believes that CNN went out and bought a washing machine and all that. But I also want to speak, too, about what is the reception from your audience. So you guys do put out a lot of content. You guys are really gaining a lot of traction. In fact, I urge our viewers to go follow the Babylon Bee if you don't right now. But you guys are getting a lot of traction right now. What's the reception that you receive from your audience?
I mean, our audience always gets the joke, you know, and our audience loves what we do, and we have a ton of supporters. You know, just this year we launched a subscription service where people can support us financially, and it's just been huge to see that people kind of rally around us when we get attacked by like the Snopes and the CNNs of the world.
Sure.
So, and then that's where, people will misunderstand satire, is when it gets shared outside of our normal audience. And that's just kind of one of the struggles of dealing with how information spreads,
Yeah.
in the internet age. It's a lot different than when people had Mad Magazine on their shelf and that was satire. Now satire's out there in a Facebook post and someone shares it, their grandma might not understand it, but it's not because we're trying to deceive. It's just kind of because that's the way that people consume information now.
Right.
So yeah, our audience always gets it, and our audience is very supportive of what we're doing.
And, to that point, too, I mean, on your website's page, you say that you are a satire site. I mean, there are fake
Right.
news pages that are up right now that don't claim that. In fact, they try to make it look like the same heading as Fox or New York Times or something like that. And those aren't being even scrutinized the same way that you guys are. So I think that's a little bit of a testament to the idea that what you're doing is successful. And I think that's why some people are starting to raise questions. But once again, the Babylon Bee, I suggest all of our followers, if you have a sense of humor, I suggest you go follow it. And Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and really breaking down this issue for us. Thank you very much.